How you feeling today, man? What's going on?
Today, in this moment, I feel amazing, man. You know, I woke up, I'm healthy, I'm blessed. Opportunities present themselves, and they present themselves because I put myself in the right spaces with the right people. And I can see how in my past, you know, the opportunities that were presented were negative opportunities because I put myself in, you know, the space with negative people and negative opportunities. So just switching that perspective has allowed my life to blossom in amazing ways.
What is your perspective on just like in general, just like a day, like when you wake up or before you go to sleep, like what's your perspective about the next day? And then when you wake up, like what is does your perspective, you know, do you notice a change in your perspective a little bit, or is it just like, you know, this perspective is just, you know, it's
Fixed.
broader, fixed, yeah.
No, I kind of have. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because my experience over the last so many years. I don't like structure in a sense. Like I need fluidity within my jobs, within my dreams, within the people I meet. Like I want the people, my core people to be the same, but I like meeting new people. And so every day I look at my schedule, even at, you know, my job, every month is a different schedule, right? And I like that. And for some people, they're like, well, I like to know I'm going to work this day, this day, this day, all the time. And for me, that doesn't work. You know, I like to know that I can switch it up this week or switch it up this month, and I can have freedom this month or freedom this day. I like that. So when I go to sleep at night, you know, I may have a understanding, okay, I'm supposed to go to work on this day or at this time, and I have to do this at this time. But there's a lot of hours within that day that I can fit in new experiences, new things, new people. And I like that. I enjoy that.
That's good, man. What do you see are challenges to your perspective, you know, like in the current?
In the current, I see my biggest challenge being myself, honestly. My Even though I'm going, and I am accomplishing a lot of things and having a lot of opportunities, I know that procrastination is my biggest foe. That is my biggest foe. I could be doing so much more, and yet I'm doing so much. But I know I could be doing so much more. I know I find myself in moments of, well, I can go do, you know, do this, and I can start editing, or I can do, you know what I'm saying, for different media things that I do. And yet I'm like, okay, well, I went to the gym earlier. I feel like going to the gym again. You know, I want to go work out again. And really that's wasted time. Productive wasted time is, you know, how I like to phrase it. It's productive because I'm doing something that'll better my body, but I know there's something better I can be doing in this moment.
Right.
And so that's my biggest obstacle in my way right now, myself.
How do you come against that challenge?
By speaking to it, you know, by highlighting it, by understanding that this is the challenge, and slowly but surely, as long as I recognize it, when those opportunities come up where I can do something else, like, bro, you know you're supposed to be doing something else. You know you're supposed to be more productive. All right, let me get to it. And I think that's what makes me more productive. But again, that will make me even more productive
Right.
when I completely get rid of my procrastination issues.
Got you. Man, if you don't mind, like just, yeah, step into like your origin, like, you know, your birthplace, where you were raised at, how you were raised, and then, yeah, we'll see where the car takes us.
Yeah, no problem. So I was born in this really, really small town of San Diego, California. So you probably heard of it.
I heard of it, definitely heard of it.
It's in Mercy Hospital, you know, that's where I was born, and that's where I was raised. For the first 7 years of my life, I lived the first 6.5 years of my life, I grew up in Southeast San Diego with my mother and my father. They didn't divorce, but they broke up shortly after I was born. I have two older sisters, same mom, same dad. And I always say, like, I was the favorite because my mom just kept having kids until she had her boy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, girl, got a boy? All right, I'm good. Got what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with a lot of love. I grew up in an apartment, you know, Santa Margarita apartment. Those are Southeast, y'all know it's a well-known apartment. apartment complex. But I grew up with two of my aunties. Actually, three of my aunties stayed in those apartments and my mom. And so it was in a household. And then other, you know how black families are, like
Yeah.
they friends of the family, but they aunties, you know what I'm saying? So that family, so it's like as a kid, we can go to any house. I might
Right.
stay the night at this house, but it's not really staying the night.
Right.
It's just wherever we lay down, that's where we sleep, because it was such a loving community
Right.
that I grew up in, and a lot of family, a lot of cousins in there. And then my dad was there as well. You know, my dad taught me how to ride a bike. You know, I remember with training wheels, took my training wheels off. My dad was there, even though they had a tumultuous relationship. I grew up recognizing my father's here and he loves me. And when things came up and my mom would call, he would come. Like, so that's what I grew up in, a lot of love. And then shortly after, I say 6.5, we moved to Florida. Me, my mom, and my two sisters, and my dad was still out here in Texas. And so as a child, I saw my dad, but as I grew up, I heard a lot of things that he didn't do right to my mom, that, you know, nothing physical, but just things that, you know, men and women go through, that it didn't touch me at that young age. But it was me and my mom, my two sisters out there in Florida, without my other auntie and my grandfather. And it was, again, a lot of love, but a lot of struggle. You know, Section 8 houses. Grew up with pet roaches, because that's about the only animals we could have in the house.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
pets,
saying?
huh?
Pet roaches, you know what I'm saying? Every day, oh, what's up, Frank? But it was probably a different Frank in that drawer
time.
every day,
Yep.
but they all look alike. So they were my pets, you know what I'm saying? And that was my childhood. But again, when you're a child, through that lens, you don't see poverty, right? When you have so much love, you don't see poverty. You know, I didn't have the video games. I didn't have all that stuff. We didn't have a phone in the house, you know, when it was just me, my mom, my sisters. But we had puzzles, you know, and we had books. We didn't have cable, but we had those things. So we had entertainment.
Right.
And that was good for me. And that's what fueled my love for learning and books. You know, my mom would give us books and we would do puzzles, and we put those puzzles up on the wall, because those was our portraits. That was our artwork on the wall. Right. So again, I had a lot of love even within that struggle, you know, and the struggle didn't really touch me or affect me to where, why didn't I have what they had? Because I had love.
Right.
And then shortly after turning 8, my mother passed away. She just, you know, we got that welfare check, you know, and, you know, first month, and we went shopping, a whole lot of groceries, and the next day she just didn't wake up.
Man, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. You know, it was a pill, you know, in the 90s called Fin, and you might have seen it on TV. If you or your family knows anyone, and she was taking a diet pill, you know, and so that's what we attribute her death to. And still to this day, if it's anything outside of that, I don't know. That's what I attribute it to. That's what me and my sisters attributed to, that Fin diet pill. And so we moved back to San Diego with my father, and again,
Real quick, I'm sorry, because when you had transitioned, you had mentioned your dad in Texas, but he wasn't in Texas, right?
No, my dad moved to Texas later on. My dad was
okay.
in San Diego.
Got you.
With us in San Diego. And so when we moved back to San Diego, my dad had married, had my little sister. And so although we coming from a really messed up spot where we lose our mom and we're hurting and everything like that, we moved into the home with my father. And although, again, my dad loved me, my stepmom did not. You know, and so that was a whole new thing that we had to deal with, living in a home that wasn't a home, you know, being around these people who did not accept us, and these people really just her, right? And we were tolerated. And as a child, losing a mother, seeing how a mother mothers, and not being able to receive that love, it's tough, it's difficult. And my dad, he just didn't know how to deal with that. He tried, but in a lot of ways was unsuccessful. And although there was resentment, you know, early on as I got older, I realized, you know, I'm his age now, and I don't have all the answers.
Right.
So how can I expect him to have all the answers? You know what I mean? And he was dealing with mortgages. He was dealing with two families.
Yeah.
He was dealing with kids. I ain't got none of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I've forgiven him 10 times over for something he didn't even need to be forgiven for.
Right.
You know, so that was something that I had to deal with growing up, not even knowing I had to deal with it, you know. And the absence that I felt in the home that void was filled in my neighborhood. You know, we ended up moving to Skyline. Now, prior to moving to Skyline, I was in gifted classes. I was in accelerated classes. I was really good in school. I didn't have the distractions of the street. When I moved to Skyline, and my dad fell on hard times with work injuries and things like that. Didn't get fired, but he was injured, and I can see now that maybe he was a little depressed because my dad's a hardworking man, and for him to
And he
not
couldn't
be
work.
able to work,
Yeah.
it was tough. It was really tough for him. So there were things that he neglected. And that's what happens when you're going through a depressive state, So yeah, my dad, that void was filled in my neighborhood, and my neighborhood was filled with a lot of kids going through a lot of trauma. You know what I'm saying? Home traumas, household traumas, and they found each other in the street, and that street found me. Skyline gang members, and they accepted me. And it started off small, just little fights, little things here, and I wasn't even really like trying to mess up. The first time I got kicked out of school, it was a happenstance. We ended up fighting over something silly, but I hurt him bad. Not trying to hurt him bad, but hurt him bad.
Right.
Get kicked out. Now I'm on probation. Now I'm in the system. Now I go to probationary school, and I end up getting kicked out of there because things still come up. But now I'm associated with the neighborhood that I live in, even though I'm not gangbanging the neighborhood that I live in. So those are things that I'm dealing with. But when I go back there, they're accepting me, but you're not. So who am I going to rock with? Who am I going to, support? The people who are supporting me. So those are the things I started to deal with when I was 11, 12, 13, 14. 12, 13, and 14 is when I really hopped off the porch as far as I'm from Skyline. When I actively started to, fight and assault people and steal and do things in the name of Skyline in order to make the older dudes, my older homies, feel accept me and want me and love me, and needed that acceptance and love and want from someone. I did more.
If you don't mind, could you unpack like that thought life when you look back on it from your perspective now? Like when you say they accepted me, or they were the only ones who would accept me, or they accepted me and they wouldn't, like what does that mean to a 12, 13-year-old? Like when because that's obviously, we work in a field with a demographic that resembles everything we went through.
Right.
And I know that I'm not the only one that when I hear these these specifics, they sound different. My perspective is different. It just sounds different. But I can, not only can I relate, but I can like feel that it's different for all of us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I'm curious to hear when you say they accepted me, or they were the only ones who would accept me. Like what does that look like, and what does that feel like? What was that experience for you of being accepted, and what does acceptance mean in this context?
Acceptance to me felt like, my big brother, hey, come, because I was like a hand-me-down kid. Like I didn't have all the nice clothes, I didn't have nice shoes and nothing like that. And acceptance to me was, hey, here goes some candy, or what's up, Will? And give me like big brother hugs, or like just, punch on me, like just, like how you doing? And you feel me, like like my chest was out when I walked there. You feel me, when I went to the Boys and Girls Club, because that was like the hub, right? And so when I went in there, it was like, man, these are my friends. Right. And then on the opposite side of that, when I went to like Alba and I started going to these continuation schools, it wasn't, oh, I'm just Will. Where you from? I ain't from nowhere. Where you live? Oh, I live over there in Skyline. Oh, you from Skyline. Now I didn't immediately jump into fights because of this, but it was oh, you from over there. Like, so what? You know what I'm saying? In my mind, in my young mind, because I didn't really grasp the gangbanging aspect just yet.
Yeah.
Right? All I know is this is where I live. I know that they bad acting over here, but I don't see the street activities just yet.
Yeah.
But I know that they don't like the dudes where I'm from. The same dudes that give me candy, or give me some of their carne asada nachos, or let me get some of their burrito, you feel me? Or, let me sneak me into the teen center, and let me wear their clothes so I don't go to the school looking all bummy, and, like that. That's what was acceptance was, and that's what not acceptance looked like. So.
Got you. It's just interesting, man, because there's so many there's so many different other words and definitions that mean acceptance to us. It's just like in the English language how we can use the word broke to mean two different things, spelt the same, right? Like my car stereo is broke. I ain't got no money, so I'm broke. But and just in the context of like acceptance, you know, people make us feel valued. You know what I'm saying? People make us feel seen. You know what I'm saying? People make us feel appreciated for being in their space. And it's just like, you know, it actually invites you in and makes you feel embraced and accepted. In a way, I see now that that's really that's what had my heart. That's what, you know, because in other spaces, you felt the complete opposite and you felt rejected.
Right.
But there were so many other different words and definitions that were connected to that. You know what I'm saying? Didn't want you here. You were associated with them. In our city, it was like you black. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, nah, we don't do that. And so, but yeah, I was just curious to hear that, you know what I'm saying, from your perspective. Because, I mean, obviously, Oceanside, San Diego, there's this weird, you know, as we kind of found on the podcast on the Post P Chronicles, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is that, you know, I think there's a stigma on both, from both perspectives, you know what I'm saying? But down here, I mean, up here, it is like like everything was racially motivated. Right. Up there, you know what I'm saying, everything was, you know, more like territorial, but at the same time, it was race on, like the wars were within the race, you know what I'm saying? And so, but yeah, you know, it was just interesting to me. What are some of the like morals and values that you actually extracted from, you know, your mother, you know, and your father that you practice today in your adult life?
Some of the things that, you know, my mom, you know, told me that I guess every boy should know, but I actually say it a lot, that, you know, don't put your hands on a woman, you know, and also no woman deserves to put their hands on you. And that's something that, I mean, I might have said that like last week. You know, my mama told me this, you know, because it always sat with me, especially nowadays when it's normalized to put hands on women, you know, especially in our community. Like, that's just a thing, you know, that's truly a thing. But for me, it's like, I don't want no woman to be scared of me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my woman to be scared of me and what I might physically do to her, you know. So that's one thing that, and my mom passed away when I was young, but that's one of the like things that I always told me, don't put your hands on a woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? And don't allow her to put her hands on you. Like, it goes both ways. And then my dad, you know, hard work. My dad is still hard work in me. I've always been a hard worker because my dad, he worked. You know, like I used to remember jumping in and out of trash cans with my dad to get cans. Wow. You know, my dad's like, you know, when he was on workman's comp, and I'm kicked out of school or suspended from school, he's like, bro, you're not just going to sit at the house. You know what I'm saying? And so we're out digging in cans, getting, you know, just something, wow, you know, and people thinking we're homeless. And my dad got a Navigator on 24s and a Mercedes-Benz on some dubs. You feel me? But he don't care about that.
Right.
He like, you're going to do something.
Wow.
You know what I mean? He would jump out in the middle of the street and chase down $1 bill, you know what I'm saying, in and out of traffic because it's money. Like, my dad valued money. He saw the value in $1. And so he instilled that in me. You know, my dad, he was an honest man. My dad didn't drink. You know, my dad used to be a gang member early in his life, right? But as soon as he started having kids, he let all that go. So I didn't grow up with my dad cussing. I didn't grow up with my dad drinking. I didn't grow up with my dad smoking. I grew up with my father telling me he loves me. And so that's something I do. I tell my friends that. I tell people like if I care about, I love you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I appreciate you. I hug you because that's what I received as a kid. You know what I mean? I always say, like, I never wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. I wanted to be a father. That's what I wanted to be. Why? Because no matter what was going on in my life, I knew my dad loved me. You know, so I had a good relationship with my father. Outside of all the other stuff, I had a really good relationship with my dad. And I wanted a good relationship with my kids, and I just wanted to be a dad. You know what I mean? Because my dad instilled love in me, and I want to instill love in somebody else. You know what I mean? In my child and, you know, my kids. So, yeah, I got a lot of values from, you know, from my family, from my dad, And from my mom, just, just spread love, just respect people, smile. My dad could meet somebody and just start talking. And like, I'm the same way. My dad's a social person. He's a social person and I'm social. He can get in a room and he can capture a room, and I realized I get that from him.
Right.
Like that's just how he was. My mom was more reserved due to she had like different conditions and things like that. She wasn't medically all the way well. But then I hear stories from her friends and my aunties, and they're like, man, before my mom had injured herself, she was the life of the party. She was very outgoing. She was, vibrant, and I love to hear stories of the woman that I never even knew.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, that's amazing to hear. Like, I believe, like, so I'll ask this first before I go into that. So, looking back on when you actually stepped into gangbanging, do you remember thinking about your parents often in that first, and I'll just say in your rookie season, you know what I'm saying, or in that very beginning of your career or lifestyle or whatever, you would want to call it for yourself. Did you often think about those things that your parents instilled in you? And in the areas where you were convicted, how did you fight through those convictions?
I never thought of my mom.
Okay.
In moments of doing something bad, I never thought of my mom. She was gone, and as a kid, like she was gone. You know what I mean? But my dad, there were times when my dad used to whoop me, that didn't affect me, right? Honestly, I just like, okay, I get a whooping and I'll be right back at it. But I remember vividly a time when I did stop gangbanging. And because my dad told me, like, he was disappointed. When he sat and he talked to me, he's like, what are you doing? In those moments, I ended up going to one continuation school, and I told the homies, I'm like, man, I'm good. I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna try to do it right. And I was doing it right. I wasn't hanging out. I was working a full-time job, and I was going to school and doing what I was supposed to do. And there was an individual in class that pushed my buttons the wrong way. And I'm like, bro, leave me alone. Like, leave me alone. And he wouldn't leave me alone. And after school, one thing led to another, and I beat him up. And then he goes and tells on me, like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Right. And I got kicked out of school, and I cried. You know what I'm saying? I cried, those angry tears, because I'm like, I really, really tried.
It was like, leave me
what
alone,
I mean? Like,
bro.
I really tried to do things the right way. And, it just didn't work for me in that moment. It didn't work for me.
Got you. So how were the transitions for you a phase and a level at a time? Like, without detail and without, like, without, and just for context sake, so like we're not glorifying anything.
How do I level up in gangbanging?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not trying to glorify anything, like, for the viewers, because there are some people who, they just, like, if they ain't hearing all the rah-rah, they'll like unsubscribe and just try to find
change the channel, yo.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it's just, I think for the people who really, really want to truly understand the psychological of individuals who can understand where we come from, like, looking back on it, like, could you just give us a little context as to how your pursuit became your pursuit, or if there even was a pursuit to elevate,
So my story is so different, right? It started with like just little neighborhood stuff, and then it was like, okay, well, let's hop on the trolley and let's go look on the other side for people. So now we're looking for people from the opposition, and we're finding them in the malls, and we're finding them on the trolley, or different areas of the city and stuff like that, and we're actually going to go try to jump people and hurt people. So it's not even just a simple fight. Like, we're trying to really hurt people now. But at this time, which I say my life is a little different, because my dad I learned later on, like I viewed it in a different way. My dad was crying out for help for me. You know what I'm saying? His son, I'm getting kicked out of school. I'm getting suspended a lot. I'm doing all this stuff. And he's like, man, he cried out to the people I call mom and pops now. And they had a barbecue restaurant. And he like, man, can my son, can he come work for you? Can he do something? Like, and I started working for them, the Crooms. And it was a barbecue restaurant called Crooms Catering and Barbecue. And they went to our church. So I knew them. But not like that. Hey, Mr. Lance. Hey, Miss Robin. And they allowed me to come 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday, and for $7.25. So I would get $14.50. I got $29 on the weekend, and I'm 14 years old at the time.
That's a big deal, bro.
It's a big deal. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Especially when, like in my neighborhood, there was no dope spots. We didn't do that. We just gangbang. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't have real money. My homies, the older people that I looked up to, they were broke. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They were not, like, I think I interviewed one of my old friends, and he was like, man, they were rejects of society. You know what I mean? Because you couldn't go get a job. You didn't have a car. You didn't have any of the successes that would dictate an 18-year-old individual, a 19-year-old individual have.
Right.
You don't have any of that. You're hanging out in the park with a bunch of 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds smoking and giving them knives to go to the trolley station to go try to rob somebody so that you can what? Go get some carne asada fries and share some carne asada fries at the barrel and maybe get a sack so we can all smoke it. That's the highlight of our day. Let's go do a run out, get some alcohol. That's the highlight of our day. That's pathetic, right? Mm-hmm. It's pathetic. But so now I'm going to work. So what work did was save me from a lot.
I'm sure.
When my people that I'm dealing with all the time, they're always in the neighborhood doing stuff. On the weekends, I'm at work, right? And then I enjoyed the work, right? So I would stay early on. I started to work for free because I wanted to learn. Before I was just washing dishes, right? But then I'm like, man, if I just sit here and wash dishes, I'll always be making $7.25 in the back. I want to learn what they do in the front. And so I would stay a couple hours on Saturday, a couple hours on Sunday to learn what they're doing and work the cash register and work the line and do all the stuff that we doing in there. And they started to see my work ethic, and I started to get more hours and I started to work more. So much so that by the time I was 15 years old, I literally had a full-time job working 80 hours every 2 weeks. You know, because I was going to continuation school, because I got kicked out so many times, I'm getting out at 12 o'clock. I'm at work by 1 and I get off at 9, which allowed me to miss so much of the negativity. But at the end of the day, I'm going back to Skyline. So that dynamic allowed me to miss so much and gain a new perspective, but the hold was already there. The hooks were already in as far as the loyalty, right? So now, 15, 16, now guns are starting to be in play with my friends, you know? And then people started to get killed that I knew, and people were starting to go to jail that I knew. But most of the time, I'm at work. Right? So everybody knew me. By the time I come back, it's a party, we're going to a party, or now I got a car. You know what I'm saying? So I was the first one with a car. Nobody else. So now, because of my loyalty, now I'm like, all right, well, let's go, you know, so-and-so and do whatever. But then I'm going to work, you know? So it's like I'm off the radar, but I'm on the radar. I'm off the radar, but I'm on the radar. And I started to become closer with the Crooms, with the family. And so my perspective on what's good and what's bad and what I can do and what I can't do started to change, because I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want the street life anymore because I saw something better. I found something better, but I didn't know how to detach myself from it. You know, the loyalty was there. And for my immediate circle, you know, my 3 best friends, one of them, he had been banging his whole life, but he was like more sheltered. The other 2, I brought them to Skyline. You know what I'm saying? I brought them into this. So my thing, even though the homie that was sheltered, he was already there, I like, bro, I was the most aggressive one of our group. You know what I'm saying? I was the one leading from the front. I was also the shortest one, the smallest one, but I was the rowdy one. And I'm like, dang, I brought them into so much stuff. How can I just leave them now that I found something better? So that's what I was wrestling with at such a young age, things that kids really shouldn't have to deal with. But I know it's probably so many kids that deal with that.
Right.
You know, I wanted something better for myself. I started going on trips with the Crooms. I started to see how they interacted with each other and how families treated each other without alcohol, without all the craziness. And it was like they just loved each other. And all the craziness is what I grew up with my cousins and all the stuff like that as we got older. But I loved it because I knew it was a lot of love and it was a lot of little hectic. Like that's, you know, I didn't say this was bad. I loved it. That's what I knew. But then I saw something different.
Right.
And I liked the different. I enjoyed the different. But I also got to go home.
Yeah.
So that's what I was dealing with.
What would you say, like, if you can think back and like just grab a hold of it, were like your dreams and ambitions as a kid, like, were you a dreamer? Were you like one of them kids that was just like, I'm gonna be this when I grow up, I'm gonna be this when I grow up?
I wanted to be a father. From a young age. Like I said, I didn't have dreams of being, I always said this, I didn't see myself as having any discernible talent, right? Like I couldn't jump high, I couldn't sing, I couldn't dance, I couldn't, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't any of those things. But I did have a talent because I knew how to connect with people.
Gotcha.
Even from a young age, I had a good work ethic, and I could walk into a room and just go up to somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? You know what I mean? And get to know them and have a conversation. Like that's what I did from a very young age. And I didn't see that as a skill, as a talent, as something that set me apart. I was just being me, you know? And I always used to hear like teachers, man, he has potential. Like, what is potential? I know now when I see it in other kids and I can see what they saw in me, but at that age, phooey.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I always hear those things and now I know what they were referring to.
Right.
So as far as dreams, no, I wanted to be a dad and I wanted to be successful. You know, I wanted to do something different. And then let me say this, now I started to have dreams after working at the restaurant because now I wanted to open my own restaurant. I had a dream of being of Rachel Ray. Okay. At the time before Rachel Ray, I was always joking around and funny. I was like, man, maybe I'll have like a talk show where I'm cooking and talking and, you know, joking and stuff like that because I liked to cook. I became the lead chef or the lead grill man
at the restaurant?
At the restaurant
wow.
At 16.
And you started doing what? Just
I was, you know,
regular tasks? Like
I started off doing washing dishes 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. Then I started working for free to learn all the other aspects of the restaurant. And then I started to become the lead grill man, and I outshined, outpaced, outworked, outlasted everyone else.
Who gave you your first opportunity on the grill?
My pops, Lance Kroom.
Wow.
He gave me my first opportunity, and I always say I won this award. There was a barbecue cook-off at Saquon Casino with over 30 vendors in Greater San Diego County, and out of 2,000 people who voted, we won best tasting, and I cooked all
wow.
those ribs.
At what age?
At 16.
Can you imagine that, bro?
At 16 years old. Yeah, so I always say, man, I won an award, you know, say for grilling. You know, I won an award for grilling.
Yeah.
The shop won an award, but I'm like, man, I grilled all of those ribs. I'm talking about thousands of baby back ribs, you know, seasoned them up and put them on the grill, you know. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man. When would you say like you started understanding that you have to make, and this is what I'm saying as a youngster, you know what I'm saying, you have to start making better choices, because if not, one or two things is going to happen to you? Or were you an individual that didn't necessarily care if one of those two things happened to you?
I cared.
And one of the two things is death or prison or jail.
I cared, and I spoke to that specifically in 2005. 2005, I picked out my funeral song, and I told my family in 2006 I'm gonna be dead or I'm in jail, because I'm going down this path that at that point, I had even told my closest homies, I said, man, let's stop gangbanging. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just get some money. You know what I'm saying? Let's be about some money, because this like gangbanging ain't gonna get us nowhere. It's like it's not gonna get us anywhere, right?
And this is conscious thought right here, though. Like, I think people glaze over these kind of comments as if this is something that we should be thinking, or, what else should you say? But in reality, this is like positive, conscious, not only self-talk, but this is what you're expressing to someone else. Like, look, man, you know what I'm saying? This is really gonna end up one or two ways, and we don't deserve either. You know what I'm saying? Let's go another direction.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, they I think because shortly before that, like I'm out, and it really sat with me because my mom, she was crying. My adopted mother, one I tell you about now, she was crying because I'm out and I'm like 2 a.m. and they're calling my phone, but we had just got into it with somebody. We had jumped some dude at the mall. He was in the hospital. He didn't die, so I can speak to it. He didn't die, but he was in the mall. He was in the hospital, and his family. He was from the other side, and his family like, man, if he die, we gonna tell, because they knew me and they knew one of my homies, and they're like, man, we gonna tell on them, and it got to where. It's like, man, we're gonna come over to y'all side of town and we just gonna have a little brawl. You feel me? And it's late, and I know my mom is expecting me home, and I see my phone, and sometimes that saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Yeah.
And I knew if I picked that phone up and she told me to come home, out of respect for her, I would have came home. Right, but I also felt like I couldn't leave my homies in this moment. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and we on the block, and I had this little axe that one of my homies gave me, and we had chains, we had bats, we had knives, like we West Side Story out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all gonna come over here and think y'all just gonna get a fair fight? Not going down. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they never come. So we just out there. You know what I'm saying? High. Some people drinking. I didn't drink when I was younger. But I'm high, and at the whole time I'm thinking I'd put my phone in the trunk just because I didn't want to see it. And I get home and she thinking I'm dead, and she's crying, and see my pops, he's upset, and they're distraught. And then they go in my car and they see bats and the axe. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get a little axe, and what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell are you doing? And it hurt me to see them hurt. And another particular moment is when I told my dad. I ended up moving to Texas, very short amount of time, 2 months with my dad, and we ended up getting a little tussle. And I was like, man, I'm moving back to San Diego. I don't want to be out here, right? And I came back. So we had a little back and forth, but I cried out for help because we had just bought a shotgun, right? Me and my homies. And I'm like, I told my dad, like, hey, man, we just got this gun. But I'm telling him, because if that was my son, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted my dad to come and get me. I wanted my dad to save me. I wanted him to do something that I wasn't strong enough to do, which is take me up out of this crisis, right?
Yeah.
And I like I said, I was on a train ride to hell, and I didn't know how to take myself off because I felt so much loyalty to my friends. I'm like, I can't leave them. I know better. I feel better. I no longer want to do this because I know there's more for me. But I can't leave y'all. You know what I mean? And if I can leave y'all, I don't know how to leave y'all.
Exactly.
So I need an adult to take me up out of here. Because now I'm a child again. You know what I mean? I'm moving around like an adult. I'm moving around like I'm grown, but I'm a kid. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm a kid crying out, Dad, save me. And I think it's based on the fact that we have fought prior to me leaving and him not wanting to create like more tension in our relationship. And so he's like, man, son, just be safe. And I know he cared. I know he loved me.
Right.
But in that moment, I felt like he failed me, because I want you to save me. I'm begging you, save me, without saying, hey, man, save me. Yeah. And shortly after that, picking out the funeral song and everything like that, 2 months later, I'm arrested looking at 75 years to life,
2 weeks later.
No, not, because this was December of 2005, and January 17th is when the incident happened, and February 9th of 2006 is when they came and arrested me.
Picking out your own funeral song, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Yolanda Adams. I forget the name of it, but it was Yolanda Adams. It was a gospel song. It was really good. It was beautiful.
But like, at what point was you just in a particular day, just like, I'm about to pick my own funeral song out? Like, can you remember back to when you was like, or had it been something that you were thinking about, and you were just like, man, I'm gonna be dying soon, and I want my loved ones to hear this playing, as they like. What was that?
It was like adding up everything, because like you said, the progression, not speaking to the specifics of it, but everything was progressing. Like I said, guns started coming into play, like real crime started to come into play, like bigger crimes and more hurt and more pain that you can't come back from started coming into play. And again, I could not take myself out of it, because now I'm in it, and then some of the things that I led, and I'm bringing them here. So I'm like, what am I doing? And I just knew, like, I need to be saved. I want to be saved. And I was like, nobody's going to save me. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to be dead, or I'm going to be spending the rest of my life in prison. Those are my two options. And in the song, I was in the shop. That's what we called the barbecue restaurant. It was actually Curated Barbecue, but those that worked there, it was known as, where you going to? The shop. It was the shop. And so I'm in the shop, and we used to play gospel music in the shop. They're both ministers, both pastors now, and I loved gospel music. I still do. It's beautiful. And the song came. I was like, man, I want this song played at my funeral. I want this song played at my funeral. Like, what the hell are you talking about? My mom and them wasn't there. Their son, my big bro, and my cousin, and some of the other workers were there. And I'm like, yeah, like, like next year, bro, like, I'm gonna be dead, or I'm gonna be in jail. Like, that's just the track that I'm on, and I don't know how to stop it. And when I die, I want y'all to play this song. This is a good song. I want this song at my funeral.
That's heavy, bro.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever heard anyone in direct communication share that with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, or just share that. Like, I think I think, like, in perspective, it's a testament to, like, how you process. You know what I'm saying? Like, and how you think as a person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and, with that said, I know you mentioned that you were fighting 75 years. You were up against 75 years. A few weeks later after that, without going into the details of the specifics, what was it like now in a position to where you're transitioning back and forth from a module to a courtroom, and you're seeing your pops or whoever's showing up to advocate for you, however they're able to, emotionally and being present. How is that shaping your thought life at this point?
At that point, it was one of those things where it brought me further and closer to God in the same sense, right? Because I started reading my Bible, but then I'm like, I'm in here, and now I'm no longer Will, right? Which everybody knew me as. Now, Macbo. You feel me? Like, that's my name. You feel me? That's who I am. And I'm all in on this now, but I'm trying to find my way to God, right? I'm trying to, because I'm reading the Bible, and I see my mom and my pops who came to every court date, who came to visit me all the time, every week. You feel me? At this time, that's my auntie and uncle. You know what I'm saying? These are the people who came and, just over the last couple of years, from 14 to me turning 17, allowed me to work at their restaurant, and then allowed me to enter into their family, knowing my background, knowing where I came from, knowing what I was doing, even in their home, and like, hey, don't go back to Skyline. Hey, if you get locked up, we not coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, threats to scare me out of it. And still, the day I got locked up, they were always there. So I see the pain, I see the hurt, and I'm hurting them, and it hurts me. But yet that hurt did not make me shy away from Skyline. If anything, I just went deeper into it, because I'm like, well, this is what I'm in. Right. This is what my future is, so this is how I'm rocking. So it was hard. And I told the story a few times that, when I heard that time, I'm like, man, you could have let me out right then, because I changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have let me out. What? 75, bro? Don't even say no more. It's good. You're never going to hear nothing else from me. Not a peep. Let me out. But at the same time, when I'm in the modules and you got to fight and you got to, you know what I'm saying, with the homies. But when I go in the cell, I'm crying because I'm sad because I'm a kid.
Let me ask that question. When you first heard how much time you were facing, did you hear it from? Did you have a public defender, or did you have a
Public defender.
Did you hear it from him, or did you, or her, or did you hear it in the courtroom?
Preliminary hearing. No, arraignment. We heard it in the arraignment. So I heard it because I'm not knowing the severity.
Right.
Even though, I know someone lost their life, I'm still thinking like, okay, we young and I ain't shoot nobody. You feel me? Like, I'm not about to go to jail for life. And then I'm with I'm with my homies. You know what I'm saying? So we're all in the tank together. So we're feeding off that energy together. You know what I'm saying?
Which is a very young energy.
Which is a young energy. So even though, hindsight, we're all going back to the cell scared.
Yeah.
When we're together, we're all putting up this facade as whatever. And when they get to reading all the charges, 25 life for murder, 25 for murder in the commission of a gang act, 15 for attempted murder, 10 for gang enhancement. I'm like, oh, that's 75 years of life. I'm like, oh, sober, real fast, sober. Read all the jokes and like, yeah, but
I promise you,
it's
bro.
like,
I know what that feels like.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Are you serious? 75? You trying to take my life away? But then you got to put up this hard, it's whatever. You see, it's whatever. But as soon as you go back to cell and you laying on your bunk, bro, you thinking like, I may never go home.
That's weighty.
Again.
That is weighty.
Again, never. And I'm only 17 years old. I'm a child. I ain't even experienced life yet. I ain't never lived with no woman. I ain't never spent the night with a woman. You know what I mean? Like I never traveled. I never done anything. You know what I mean? I haven't done anything. I don't have any children. I really wanted kids.
Yeah.
I never had a real relationship. I never loved a woman and had her love me, which is like really important, something I always wanted. And so that was like, man, I may never see my family again, hug my sisters again. What? No.
Man. And so you ultimately get sentenced. You don't get released. What year is this?
This is 2007 is when I get sentenced.
2007 you get sentenced. And you ultimately get sentenced to how much time?
21 years. We took a deal. It was a package deal. I tried to take a deal for 15. Now the deal wasn't on the table, but I told my attorney like, hey, look, I'm tired of going to court. I can walk off 15 years. I've been doing this court for too long, and I can do it. I know I can walk it off. And my homies, and they're like, bro, they don't have nothing on us. Like, don't take it. Now that time wasn't contingent on me telling on anybody,
right.
You know what I mean? Because I did walk that part off, you know what I'm saying? I did stand tall in that, and I do believe in that part, You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in all the gangbang, I don't believe in that at all. But I do believe if you commit a crime, then you do the time for what you did, you know what I mean? I truly believe that.
If you're a part of something, when it happens, you got to be a part of it until it ends.
I think that's a coward's way out, You know what I'm saying? That's just my belief. But as a scared little kid, you know what I'm saying? I was scared and terrified, but I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, once I said 15, and my lawyer telling me, nah, don't do that, and homies, don't take the 15, and so they never even presented 15, and then they come with 21 years and nobody gets life. And everybody's like, take it. I'm like, man, that's 6 more years than y'all told me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what? All right, once again for the homies, I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I'll take it. And so I take 21 years, manslaughter with a gang enhancement, 10-year gang enhancement. And I get sent off to...
So the manslaughter was
11
10 years? Or 11
manslaughter
years?
is 11 years. The maximum on manslaughter and then the maximum on a gang enhancement is 10 years. So 21-year sentence.
That's deep, man. And so, one question. So the 15 years that you requested, was the request considered, and then you ended up saying?
My lawyer told me not to. He said, "Man, I don't even want to present this to the DA because they don't have anything on you guys.
Right.
They don't have anything."
Okay, so that's who was saying that was
my lawyer, my homies. You know what I'm saying? My cellies. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't really have any evidence. They just had people talking, and even the stories were conflicting, and it was like just But as soon as they came with that, everybody take it or you can go to trial. And it's like, ah, man, all right, I'll take it, you know.
So transitioning into, your sentencing and we'll just go ahead and just slide into reception and then kind of move us through your ability to identify your way through serving prison time.
So reception, Will is he's dead now. Like he's dead, or at least he's very dormant. I'm now either MacBo or I'm Riggs F7775. Those are my identities. And reception, I'm 18 years old. I'm young. I'm young as homie on the yard, and now I have to just basically prove myself. Reception, there was no need to prove myself. Just be ready if the time comes, right? That's all that was. And I mean, I was accepted, just, how it is when you're in jail and you're a part of something, and you're just like, you're good, especially if you come from something that's respected, you're good. Especially if you poke your chest out and you're not like, you're not loud, but you're willing to listen, which is, that's who I was. I'm like, if time to go, I'll go, but I'm also like this and willing to listen. Right. And I was respected, and they welcomed me like a little brother, and that acceptance is something even as a kid that I wanted. And in jail, I definitely wanted. I wanted that acceptance from my immediates, and I got it,
At what point, so in your mindset, you're 21 years with 85%.
85%.
And at what point did your ability and capacity for listening, at what point did you begin to identify, like, I could potentially do 21 years, or like, and I'm saying in the sense of like potentially catching another case if something happens. But at what point did that stuff like start to like point you in the direction of understanding your choices and decisions and how you can get out at 21 years, potentially more, or you can get out at an even earlier possible release date?
Honestly, early on, I was strategic in my movements, right? I was very strategic. I knew I wasn't going to do 21 years. If I got killed, that was something different, which is because I'm going to Pelican Bay. I'm starting off in, that to me, which is crazy. When I was in juvenile hall, they showed us videos of Pelican Bay riots, and I was like, man, I don't care. Only place I don't want to go is Pelican Bay.
And that's where
the first place I went was Pelican Bay. So I was scared, right? But in my mind, from a young age, once I learned how to maneuver in that first month, and you got to think, when I left prison to how I started prison, they're coming with books.
Right.
They're coming with, they're going to show you how to make knives. They got body charts of proper ways to stab people and, things like that. Like, this is what's being taught to me, right? So I'm structured up. I'm like, hey, yes, teach me what I need to be taught and tell me where I need to go. You feel me? But within that, I also learned that if I get a 115, as long as I stay clean for 6 months, then I'll get that time back.
Yeah.
And funny story, my first cellie is someone who they ended up throwing me in a cell with them, an older homie from, Compton Paru gang, and he was at school, so they put me in a cell. He comes back from school, he's like, man, if I go in that cell, I'm gonna kill him. I'm 18 years old, I just turned 19, and I'm like, what? You ain't killing me? But now it was he was just woofing because he didn't want to cellie. But I don't know this.
Right.
I don't know this.
Right.
I'm scared. I'm like, what the heck is going on? As soon as the door opened up, I'm on you. So they ended up taking him to the hole. But that was my welcome to Pelican Bay right there. And then, they ended up showing me all of the, the body charts and, how to make a knife, how to turn a towel into a weapon. They taught me everything I need to know, and also about how to read and, enrich your mind as well as your body with working out and mandatory workouts and things like that. And I didn't buck. That wasn't, what does bucking get? No. I listened. I absorbed it. And again, I was very strategic. I learned once if you get a 115, you can do 6 months and you'll get that time back. And so that was me. That's how I maneuvered throughout, honestly, my term. You know, if I can go in the cell and fight somebody, that was preferable. I'm going to go in the cell and I'm going to squabble and I'm going to do what I got to do and not get a 115. If I got to do it on the yard, I'm going to raise my hand to do something before someone tells me to do something, because, you know, black people, we don't like people to tell us to do stuff. Like,
Right.
that's just how
That's
we
the way
move.
it is, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anytime somebody had to do something, I would raise my hand. Why? Because one, being the first one to raise your hand is automatically going to get you respect. You know what I'm saying? And the next time, nobody's going to
You're
ask
gonna be the
you
last one to be asked.
Yeah, you're going to be the last one to be asked. You know. So yeah, I raised my hand. Who got to do it? I want to do it. You know what I mean? And I did it. And then I didn't have to do anything for a long time. But I was looked at as he's with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that was enough for me, you know. So I was, even though I wasn't scary, I also wasn't stupid. You know what I'm saying? I also, if I had to carry a knife, I would carry a knife for a short amount of time for whatever threat was present. And as soon as that threat was gone, I would give it a knife. I didn't want to carry a knife around 24/7 all the time. No, because
Right.
I want to go home. My mindset was always, I want to go home. I'm not gonna die in here if I can help it. You know, so yeah, I was very strategic in my time.
What were like where all did you do time at?
I started off in Pelican Bay, then I went to Corcoran, Old Corcoran. Then from Old Corcoran, I went to Lancaster. No, I went to Calipat. From Calipat, I went to Lancaster. From Lancaster, I went to High Desert. From High Desert, I went to Ironwood, and from Ironwood, I went to Centinela, and that's where I paroled from.
What was the worst? What was the worst place you had to
High
do
Desert,
time?
hands down. High Desert was the worst prison.
High Desert level 4?
High Desert level 4 was the worst
That's where
prison.
I started my time at.
Yeah, you know, it was.
You was on the C yard or the D yard?
I was on C yard.
Yeah.
I was on C yard. C yard. When I got up there, they had just stopped the long year lockdowns and things like that across California. They had stopped doing the long lockdowns. I was a part of that in Pelican Bay, but once we got there, even in Corcoran, they did that long lockdown. But once I got to High Desert, it was like, but that almost made it worse, right? Because every time you came up, it was something, and it was like, okay, well, you do 2 weeks,
Right.
search the entire
tear everything
yard,
up.
tear everything up, and now incremental unlocks. You know, but those incremental unlocks could be 2 blacks and 4 Mexicans and 2 whites, and then who's outnumbered in that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so those are the things that, you know, I saw a lot of people get killed in High Desert.
High Desert, yeah.
You know, that was probably the worst, bloodiest prison I went to.
Yeah. Where did you have the most breakthrough? Like, what prison were you at where you had the most Ironwood?
Ironwood was where my breakthrough began, and it's because prior to Ironwood, I was never in any self-help groups. I was never in any schools. I wasn't in any of those things. They weren't readily offered at any other prisons. You know, that I had my GED in juvenile hall, they didn't throw me in high school or finish my diploma, which I could have done if they gave me the opportunity, but they didn't give me the opportunity. So then college wasn't readily available to me. And then self-help groups were long lists, so I couldn't even get into self-help groups. So it was only prison that taught me, only prison that formed my views and opinions. And I had to navigate that without anything to enrich me, provided by the institution. But when I went to Ironwood, as soon as I get off the bus, it was just a different world. You get off the bus while you're in orientation, they're like, do you want to sign up for college? Do you want to sign up for any self-help groups? I'm like, what? Yeah, sign me up for everything. You know what I'm saying? Inmates, it said they come in and they signing you up. So I'm like, wow, okay, I'm getting into college. I'm doing self-help. I'm doing all these programs. And some of these programs, one that really got me was Eye for Sight, you know what I'm saying? Insight. It was getting insight into your ways of thinking, to your negative belief systems. And I always say, like, I always knew I didn't want to go back to prison when I was in jail, but I did not have the tools to make sure that I stayed out.
Got you.
Right? In Ironwood, I started to develop the tools in order to stay out of prison. So college and self-help. And then it was one incident, and I had to, this is my last battery. And I had to get on one of my younger homies doing something, and I didn't have to because I was older and I had done a lot of stuff. But just loyalty to one of my other homies who did it, and I was like, all right, bro, if you go, I'm gonna go. And it was at that moment where I'm like, bro, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good in handling my business, and I'm well respected. And I had a couple of squabbles in the cell because you go from a level 4 to a level 3, it's very disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't have level 4s. That's one thing about level 4s. They have that level of respect
All the way
off
around.
top,
All
the way around. You know what I'm saying? Because they know if it goes, it's gonna go. Level 3s is different. They cool with fights and all that stuff. So they just say whatever. So I had to, set my line in the sand with a couple of incidences. But after that, it was like much respected. I give respect. Level 4s teach you give respect because that's what you're going to get in return. So that's what I offer to anyone and everyone. I'm going to respect you off top. Give me what I give you. And so that's what happened. But then I caught the battery and I'm sitting in the cell. I'm like, man, I'm about to go to the hole again. God, man, I just keep doing stuff. And I end up coming out in the yard. I'm like, bro, I'm done. I didn't give up the gangbanging, but I told them, like, bro, if it's not serious, don't come to me. You know what I mean? If it's not a racial, don't come to me. You know what I'm saying? I done did so much, and you got all these, still gangbang adjacent, because I'm like, you got all these little dudes up in here who ain't did nothing. Y'all ain't raised your hand for nothing. Stop calling on me. Don't ask me for, don't do it. So now I'm the big homie, but they respect it. So now I can truly focus on my self-help. Now I can truly focus on my insight. Now I can truly focus on reforming my mind so I can be a better man when I come back to society for myself and my family. I get kicked out of Ironwood because of that battery months later, and I go to Ironwood. I go to Centinela, which is where I eventually paroled from. So they send me back to level 4. I paroled with level 4 points, but I was able to do good in High Desert because, as you know, even though things go up, you can have
That's good time.
Yeah, you can. You know what I'm saying?
That's how I got out of there.
That's
fast.
all good time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm being able to escape a lot of. I got my scrapes out the way early.
Yeah.
So then I was able to get a good 2 years of good time, and that good time allowed me to override to a level 3.
Yeah.
Ironwood. Lost my override, went back to level 4, back to Centinela, and Centinela was cool. Centinela was really cool. I was able to start going to groups again and kind of stay out the way because, again, my name traveled to, you travel around prison, your name travels and everything like that. So I had a good name and a respect for everyone mutually, and a lot of people knew me, so I didn't have to enter into any of the real negativity. And yeah, man, I kind of flourished in Ironwood. I really flourished in Ironwood.
And so you paroled obviously with an empowered perspective, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you paroled, when I first met you, it was it MCRRP or MCRP?
MCRP.
You released to MCRP, which is a medium custody rehabilitation or reentry program.
It's because I'm still CDC, so it's a reentry program.
Reentry program.
Yeah.
And
Men's correctional reentry program.
Men's correctional reentry program. You stay there for
6 months.
6 months until you ultimately officially parole.
Mm-hmm.
How was your thought life towards society being back, like being so close, but yet still being kind of incarcerated? Not kind of incarcerated, you were incarcerated, but you get to step out and come back in, step out and come back in. How did this prepare you, and how did this prepare your perspective, and how, like, what tools were you able to actually like utilize to keep you from, crossing lines that obviously people, other people crossed, you know what I'm saying? It's not easy, you know what I'm saying, to be that close, you know what I'm saying?
Close to freedom, you could taste it, and it's not, right outside your grasp. So one, I would like to say that I do appreciate the opportunity to go to MCRP. Two, I would suggest anyone coming home who's done a significant amount of time to be able to go to a halfway house. If you have the infrastructure, the family support, and all that stuff, then that's cool. But if you don't, go to a halfway house. Go to, because you get to slowly transition back into society. Me leaving when I was 17 years old and coming home when I was 33, you know what I mean? It was a big transition for me. And almost to the day, because it'll be 2 years me getting out, and February 17th of this month, it'll be 2 years. And when I came home, I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. I didn't know nothing about the grown-up life. I had never lived my life as an adult, so I didn't know any of those things. But being at MCRP, I was able to work, and I was able to not worry about where my food was going to come from. They was able to get my ID and everything that I needed with the bus pass, so I didn't have to worry about the struggles that society throws on you. Yeah. Rightfully so, because you are an adult, right? But we're adults that have been gone for so long. Our growth has been stunted due to our circumstance. And MCRP, that helped me. Now, that helped me for the first few months to when I was able to get off my feet. And now I can really start to maneuver back into society. And again, for me, it was just a little bit different again, because there's this law called 1437, the resentencing law. That resentencing law, the felony murder rule, says that based on the parameters of my crime, I should not have been sentenced to manslaughter that much time. And had I went through the system, which I'm impatient, according to the law, I didn't even commit a crime.
Right.
Today's standards, because you have to sentence someone to the underlying felony. So had we robbed somebody and then they died, then I would be sentenced to the robbery. But all we had was words with individuals, and someone got shot, and words does not rise to the level of a crime, and we didn't fight yet. So I didn't assault anyone, I didn't hurt anyone, wasn't in possession of the weapon, I didn't shoot the weapon, I committed no crime. You would have had to resentence me to nothing. Instead, I got assault with a deadly weapon with a gun enhancement or a gang enhancement, and they resentenced me to 7 years with half time. You know what I'm saying? A nonviolent felony, which means I would have been out in 3 years as opposed to 16 years based on that. And so they resentenced me around June. And once they resentence you, you're essentially free. But it took them another 2 months, so I'm sitting in there for 2 months.
In MCRP?
In MCRP, knowing
that you should be out.
Yeah, it was like slow moving.
That's a whole psychological battle in and of itself. It was a whole psychological,
because like now I'm free, and even if I break the rules that MCRP sets down, you can't send me to jail. You know what I'm saying? I have this ankle monitor on. If I get in the car and drive a car, you literally cannot take me to jail. All you can do is keep me in MCRP, and you would take away my passes, and then I wouldn't be able to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that part was really messing with me, because now I'm like, I should be able to go here. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. And I can't. Yeah. You know what I mean? I couldn't. So that part stressed me out. But everything leading up to that, man, I understand it. I mean, if I had too much of a leash, I probably would have hung myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not hung myself because I would have ran back to crime, but because I would have been so overwhelmed with the struggles of society that I'd have been like, oh my God.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to adjust properly, you know?
Catatonic state, like, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It would have been very difficult for me to adjust. And I'm going to give myself a little bit more credit than that. I would have figured it out. But it would have been so much more
Because I believe any of us who can figure out doing, any amount of time, I don't want to like
diminish
shame nobody as people do, you know what I'm saying? But I think if you can navigate doing time and not being okay with, but making the best out of being confined to that kind of environment for as long as you have to be, you can make it count out here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts. I believe the same thing.
So with that, let's transition into, what you're doing. I know we in the beginning of this spoke about currently in the day and how you're doing, but like organizationally, professionally, and socially, how are you reintegrated into society today?
So I want to talk first about the socially. And the reason why is because at the beginning of this, we talked about William Riggs, and I said, Will with a purpose, and I'm gonna tell you the purpose of that. So when I was younger, I was Will, right? That was my nickname, my family nickname. That was just an easy way everybody identified me. Even when I started gangbanging, everyone who knew me as Will. And for so long, I was Riggs, or I was MacBo, and I was F7775, and I didn't have my identity. So when I came home, I took back my identity. Those who know me on social media, I'm Second Chance Will, because I got a second chance at life and I'm not going to squander it. And so for me, like, there's so much power in Will. And there was one time where I struggled with that, because I'm like, is it like an adolescent thing? And I introduced myself to someone, and she's like, no, you should say William Riggs. That's how you should. And she was running for office, and I was introducing myself, and I was like, man, is she right? Is she right? And I was like, no, this is my story. You know what I'm saying? And there's power behind my story, and there's power behind this name. And so that's why, I have no problem with, hey, but I will, like, hey, when I'm comfortable, this is why I say Will. There's power behind this name. You know what I mean? So socially, I'm a butterfly, man. I love people. I love hearing stories. I love talking to people. I feel like everyone has a very unique story. Even if they can't tell it, I like the fact that I like to bring out people's greatness. You know what I mean? That's how I like to say it, man, because everybody's great. And then professionally, man, I've been blessed. I've been blessed. And a part of my professional comes from my social, because every opportunity I've been given, my mentor, my big brother, my light-skinned friend, Jason, he is the founder of Homework.
Yeah.
And he put me in position at the gym, Chula Vista. He knew someone who worked there, Mark the Shark Black. He was one of the owners there at the time, and he got me an interview, and I interviewed, and they allowed me to get in there. Just recently, last Friday, man, I went from just being a front desk man to general manager of TG Wellbeing. So, blessings been coming, and then
And
now I
not
work
just
for,
a front desk man. You were what was your position though? Because you were like a front desk sales guy, right?
well, I was just a simple front desk guy, and then they elevated me to sales manager.
Gotcha.
Like 2 months ago, they elevated me to about December. They elevated me to sales manager, and then general manager of TG Wellbeing. So yeah, I've been elevating. It's been a blessing. And then working for Youth Empowerment, the nonprofit organization where we work with kids and at-risk youth and inside of juvenile halls. I'm able to go into juvenile halls and do one-on-one mentoring in the community. And again, that opportunity came because of Jason. He introduced me to one of the people who worked there, Nikki. And, one thing led to another, and they allowed me to come on, and they loved me and I loved them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A great environment, and allowing me to live in my passion, which is giving back to the youth and the formerly incarcerated. And then also, so I have a podcast called Post P Chronicles. And with the podcast and soon to be nonprofit, we interview people formerly incarcerated, people who have gone through different prisons in their life. A prison just being something that keeps you from being the best version of yourself, because everyone's prison isn't 4 walls and a sink, right? And so we've been blessed to be doing that for close to a year and a half, just telling stories again. I just love telling stories, man. I just love telling people's stories, helping bring out those stories in people and let them share it with the world. And then, so I'm just doing a lot of different things.
Man, so you got a whole how do you say it? I don't know how to say it, but you got like a trilateral dynamic, you know what I'm saying, already, bro. It's only been almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years on the 17th.
2 years on the 17th. Yes, sir.
Looking back on your release date 2 years ago, is this, I asked you this kind of the same way, you know what I'm saying, when we were at the Heal Gala, I asked you, man, could you have ever seen yourself like, and it's kind of the same question, but it's more related to like when you did release going into MCRP, and then now, you know what I'm saying, like stepping into your 2 years, because are you currently on parole?
I was off parole 4 days after getting out of MCRP.
And that's like,
yeah,
I'm not sure people really understand like the
true freedom.
That it's like, there's nothing like feeling like as a grown man, you're governed by another grown man. Being in prison is one thing. It's like you got a bunch of COs. You know what I'm saying? You got a whole system that seems like it's the authority over you. But it's like the anxiety that comes with having to be under the governing authority of one particular agent, which is still under CDCR, but it's just like,
It's different.
because they have the capacity to rearrest you and to
Any
violate
time.
you, you know what I'm
Anytime.
saying, for anything that they want. And it's just, you hope that you get one that is rooting for you. You know what I'm saying? And so that's great, bro, that you didn't have to experience that for long at all. What would be something that you would say is the biggest difference in the world as you know it in San Diego, being formerly incarcerated, post-release, and with a podcast? So you sat in front of a lot of different people already, working at a gym, so you've conversated in dialogue with a lot of people already, and just being your social, self, socially positive, socially extroverted, kind of like just already lined up to be able to like socially engage. What would you say would be the biggest difference in San Diego as you knew it when you left, and San Diego as you know it now, that helps you to be able to operate the way that you operate today?
I think the biggest difference, which is going to sound crazy, is a lot more love and acceptance. I feel like, before I went to jail, even just being on probation, just being associated with gangs, it was like, oh, standoffish from adults to us. And then, like, even in the Southeast, the racial dynamic was all black. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it was more black people in Southeast. Now it's not so much like that. But even within these gangs, there's different cliques. And people are intermixing all the different gangs.
Yeah.
They're intermixing and stuff. And it may sound crazy, but what that tells me is that it's bigger than just this gang and that gang.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, unfortunately, it's still a lot of death, a lot of killing, a lot of lost children. But there's a lot more acceptance when you, like, even coming home, like, you come out of prison, it's not really a stigma anymore. It's almost like I drop some stuff off to somebody, she's like, oh yeah, why are you second chance? Oh, I was incarcerated. She's like, oh, you're you're so amazing. I'm like, oh, that lady, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that's the acceptance that we got, so I don't wear it as a scarlet letter anymore. It's like, man, this is a part of my story.
Right.
This is my badge. Look what I overcame to be who you see today. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I see a lot more love and acceptance, across the board, across the board. We just need just a little bit more, and we'll be good. But I do see it.
It's coming, and it's individuals like yourself who help people, I think, on both sides of it, to feel more comfortable being who they are. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's still hard for me, to communicate with certain individuals that come from where I come from, as far as gang activity. But I'm learning, it's just hard. Like, but I know also that I'm getting closer and closer to being, I don't want to say comfortable, but I'll say confident in what I'm able to provide, even though they may not be ready for it. You know what I'm saying? And not feel like I'm a liability to them, or that they're a liability, to me.
Right.
But yeah, I share that, more so to align with what you're saying, because there's a lot that when I left in 2008, I came back in 2017, and I left feeling like I had to do and be every bit of who I stepped in the gang as, when I did at a young age. I had to do and be that in order to survive, and I believed I was going to live and die doing it. But I came home to a completely different reality, in understanding that my lived experience can actually not only be professionalized, but it can be a bridge, you know what I'm saying, for others to cross over into as they're becoming who they're purposed to be. And so it interested me when you said that, because it's like I think about all of the youth that you have action at, all of the men and women that you have action at, and all of the individuals who, because you train too?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So all the individuals you have the opportunity to train, you know, there's so many different levels socially that you have an opportunity to engage on a daily basis, and so you're pretty solid, I believe, like bridge for many different people, you know what I'm saying, to be who they are. I think that's one of the things I noticed about you too in the very beginning when I met you at MCRP, is you were just like, man, I'm honestly, bro, I'm not really wanting for nothing. Like I'm not really trying to get a job because I need a whole lot of anything, you know what I'm saying? I just want to be, I want to be productive. But to be honest, like I really just want to work with you. You mentioned something about health and wellness, but it's ultimately like that's exactly how
Yeah.
the chips lined up for you.
Yeah.
Lined up for you.
Man.
And so your life, your story, man, is empowering. It's your perspective is it's empowering, and your context is rich. Are there individuals from your neighborhood who were around when you left, around and available, and try to pull from you in what you have in a positive today?
A lot of people, and that's another thing that just really keeps me going. From the brothers that I was in there with, and they reach out like, bro, you the example, like keep shining, bro. You know what I'm saying? You the example for us to follow once we come home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even my homies, like, they tap in and they be like, man, like we see you. I'll pull up sometimes, and you know what I'm saying, just because I used to try to like distance myself, right? Because I just didn't feel the same, right? But then I'm like, if I really want y'all to change, y'all need to be the change that I hope for you. You need to see the change I want you to be, right?
Yeah.
And so how can I really you know what I'm saying, just take myself out of the equation? So I'll pull up sometimes like, hey, what's going on? This is what's going on. And if I have something for you, come along. I want to pull you along. But if you're taking from me or trying to put me back into that space, well, that's when I distance myself, But no, I don't get nothing but love. I honestly don't get anything but love. And like, bro, keep going. I'm not there where you're at yet, but I'm inspired to see you doing it. And so I'm like, man, that's all I need, man. Just give me, that's fuel. You know what I'm saying? That's gas in my tank. Good looking out. Appreciate you. I love it.
Throughout, I'll say the greater beginning part of what you shared with us today, you mentioned just like how you were just like your situation kind of pushed you further, it furthered you from God, but then pushed you towards Him, and then you spent a period of time kind of just trying to get closer to Him and trying to figure out like what was going on, and then I mean obviously you walk out life in prison. You've been walking out life post prison. How is that relationship with God now? Like what is
For me, like I don't move from a spiritual realm or from a religious realm. It's more spiritual in a sense. I went through my stages of being I'm a fire Christian, like don't say, and I was even that when I wasn't praying, because I believed in Jesus Christ. I believe He died for my sins. I believed all of that, and then I went to being a 5%er, nations of gods and earths, and reading books and just educating myself. And then I went from being, atheist in a sense, like I didn't believe in God, or most of all, I didn't believe in Christian faith. I didn't believe in that. And then my transition went to agnosticism, to where I believed in a higher power. I don't know what that consists of, but I do believe something created all of this, and now I believe that one something, that one person, that God, I give Him the name of God, to connect with everyone, but I believe has His hand on my life, And yes, my steps are guided by me. I believe this because that's the free will that is given to us. But I know that we have multiple paths set down, multiple paths, and all of them are true if you decide to take it. I can be a great gang member if I want to. That path is right there. That is a future for me if I take it. And I can be a successful entrepreneur. I can be a successful in the nonprofit area, in health and wellness. I can be successful in this over here if I choose to take it, because he set down these paths for us, all of them. And so this is the one I'm walking, the one that he set down for me. So that's where I'm at with my journey, and I give thanks. You know what I'm saying? I say I'm blessed. I didn't used to say that, but I do say I'm blessed because I'm seeing too many things that are outside of my power, outside of me, that fall into my lap, that, or that keeps me on the right track, or, what I'm saying? It's been a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man, I believe you definitely are blessed, man. I mean, for you to have, I mean, just your story from the beginning to end, you know what I'm saying? A lot of us we don't get here cognitively, intelligently being able to articulate our context like this, you know what I'm saying, by happenstance. And some people may feel that they do, but I'm one to believe that, like God literally, he covers us, you know what I'm saying, and he keeps us, from a certain death, and we're able to, I believe, we do have willpower, you know what I'm saying, we are able to, we literally almost willed ourselves to death in a game, reality. And it was very true for me too, you know what I'm saying, absolute, this is the objective truth that I'm gonna live by, but it runs its course at some point, and you realize there is a greater explanation for me being here today. You know what I'm saying? It ain't because of the laws. You know what I'm saying? It ain't because of the lawyer. You know what I'm saying? I chose myself into a position of incarceration and even sometimes near death. But I also made choices to pray and to believe that there's better for me, you know what I'm saying? And it lined up with, I think, the hand that moved me along that path, you know what I'm saying, that I chose, that walked me away from a life that was certainly killing me. This platform, we definitely appreciate you coming and inviting us into your world, man.
For sure, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and like I said, man, I appreciate what you're doing, the lives that you're touching, the lives that you're changing, and I'm glad to be a part of it, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Yep, no doubt.
Appreciate you.
And hopefully this won't be the last time.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We got a whole lot more we can cover. Oh yeah, you know what? If you can, man, tell the people how they can find you.
Definitely.
Communicate with you
Definitely.
Concerning Post P Chronicles, youth empowerment, and the gym.
Definitely. So you heard it right here, man. Post P Chronicles. You can check us out on Spotify. You can check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on Instagram, Post P Chronicles. Second Chance Will, that'll be me. You can check me out on Instagram. I am also on TikTok, Post P Chronicles on TikTok. And you can check me out on Facebook at William Riggs.